Greetings, friends and fellow cigar box guitar enthusiasts. Welcome to part 4 of the video series called Baby Steps, where we walk through a bunch of baby steps on building this here 3-string cigar box guitar I'm calling the DelaCaster. But before we get started, I just wanted to show you the sky outside because it is so beautiful. Oh my gosh. All right, so we are going to go through the door and I'm going to show you outside. You got to check this out. Oh my gosh. There's the outside of the cigar box guitar factory. There's a bunch of future necks. There's the house. Mi casa, su casa. But look at this big sky. Oh my gosh. Just gorgeous here. But yeah, just get a load of that sky. All right, time to do some baby steps, folks. All right, so last night while the video was rendering, I went ahead and dressed the edges of the frets, and I did the solder burns, and I installed the switch and the potentiometer. I outlined where the pickup is going to be drilled, and what else? That's it. Oh yeah, I did screw it in place. So in this video today we are going to wire up and then string it up, tune it up, and tear it up. One thing I've learned by making many mistakes, you've heard that saying that says some people got to learn the hard way. All right, that's me. You've also heard that you got to go through the school of hard knocks. All right, so yeah, that's me. Actually, to be honest with you, I'm so educated at the school of hard knocks, I could be a professor at the school of hard knocks. Okay, so anyhow, one of the things I've learned is that when you take these rusty hinges, a lot of times the continuity from one side doesn't transfer over to the other side. So you got to make sure that that you have an electrical continuity between two sides of the hinges. All right, so this is what I do. So I take the underside and I take it over to the grinder and I grind down the metal to expose the shiny. That's the very first thing I do. And then I get myself a little multimeter. So if you don't have a multimeter, I highly recommend getting yourself one of these little dudes. I don't know where I got this thing or how long I've had it. It just seems like it's been kicking around here forever, to be honest with you. Learn how to use it. It's great for finding shorts or checking continuity paths or resistance or whatever the case is. These things here are a must. I highly recommend you getting your hands on one of these things somehow, somewhere. Yeah, so anyhow, right now it's set up to measure ohms, and that's resistance. And I'm just going to set it down right here. I don't know if it's kind of off camera. You can't see that. Sorry. There's no way I can do this for you to be able to see it, really. Maybe you can see that. Anyhow, so right now it says 1. Oh. Stay. Yeah, I know you're not going to be able to see it. Whatever. Here, so this is what I do here. So whenever I only have 2 hands, so whenever these are touching, that's a short. Whenever it's not touching, it's an open. And so what I want is I want it to be a short from one side of this hinge to the other side, and that way I know that if I ground one side, that the ground will go through to the strings to the other side. So I set it up like this, and I set it up like this, and I'm looking for a short, and it's a short. Open, short. All right, you'll be amazed at how many times that you don't get the short across the hinge, even though everything's metal. So I'm reserving all of those guys, and then I'm going to get some contact cleaner, and I'm going to clean them out so that so I can salvage the hinges, because they're awesome hinges. They just don't work. This one here happens to work, so I'm going to use this one for the string catch on this here cigar box guitar. Now it's really important that your hinge is centered on the neck. Okay, you don't want it to be off in any direction, right? Because then your strings are not going to match. So this is another one of those situations where you need to measure before you. Now the fortunate thing for me is that I can just open the box, right? And then I can see visually exactly where that neck piece is. Sometimes you're going blind because the box's lid is shut. Okay, so that's where it's going to go. It's exactly in the center of the neck through. And that's going to ensure my strings are in the center of the fretboard. And then I just mark it and drill it. And then I also drill a little diagonal from here, pops out here, and that's going to be for the ground wire. So I can get the ground wire from the jack, the ground side, through that little guy onto the hinge so I can ground my strings. All right, so that's an important piece of information here I do not want to overlook. And just assume that you guys know. Grounding issues are the worst. When your guitar is not grounded, it is nothing but frustrating and annoying. And when you have a ground problem, sometimes it's very confusing to figure out what the heck's the problem. I've had many issues with that, and so you want to avoid having any sort of grounding problems if at all possible. And for those of you who follow this channel, you'll know that a lot of times I like to take these shiny, brand new single coil pickups, and what I do is I destroy them. I take the plastic covers off, and then I reveal the pickup, and then I distress it a little bit, sometimes a lot of it. And so in this case here, I traced out with a pencil exactly where it's going to go. And now what I'm going to do is take a drill and using the same technique that I used to cut out the bottom portion here, with drilling it out and then cutting it out, I'm going to do that same exact technique to cut out this circular hole for the pickup. Actually, I got a better idea. I'm gonna try this guy. The reason being is because it's kind of curved on the edges here, and I think that curve might match up perfectly. You'll never know until you try it. Actually, that's going to work perfectly. Wow. Hey, you learn something new every day. Sweet. Yes. Hey, that's going to work. That's going to work. Okay. Just need to keep working it. We cut out the hole, and then I also had to cut out a little trough in this neck wood in order for the bottom of this magnet, a little magnet on the bottom, to fit in there, and of course this thing to close. So one thing I am going to do is I'm going to treat the edges here, see how they're white? I want them to look like they're black also here. So I'm going to go back and hit this edge with some stain. One thing I did mention is that last night while yesterday's video was rendering, I also took liberties to hit the top of this thing with steel wool, and I revealed some of these edges here. And then of course around here, I don't know if you can see that, just subtle So I have layer upon layer of different colors here on the top here, which I thought turned out really nice. I also hit the back of the neck with the steel wool and the edges of the frets. So this thing is really starting to take on the general feel of a cigar box guitar. Okay, so now we are going to attach the pickup to the neck here. Moving right along, the next baby step is soldering up the pickups. Now, a lot of people get intimidated and overwhelmed and confused here. To be honest with you, it's not as difficult as you might think. So there's plenty of schematics that you can download online. It's gonna depend on your specific pickup, switching, wiring, configuration. In this DelaCaster here, it's pretty straightforward. I have a 3-way switch that selects between a piezo and a single coil in the bridge position. And then the output of the switch is going to go into a potentiometer. Then the output of the potentiometer is going to go to the jack. Now the main thing is making sure all of your grounds are connected. So that's kind of the main thing. So the very first thing I do is I recommend getting yourself some of this flux stuff. I used to use this kind of flux, but I was schooled by many of you saying, don't use this stuff, use this stuff. So anyhow, this is what I use, and then I just get a Q-tip, the same kind of Q-tip that you put in your ear, but this is going to be this kind of stuff. And what you do with this stuff is you just kind of you want to put this on all the contacts that you are going to apply solder to, and also your wire leads. For example, here you're going to take your little wire and you're going to put a little bit of flux, not a whole lot, just enough to get the solder to flow. Now what I like to do is I also recommend getting yourself a nice hot iron. Okay, this one here is a 40 watt. 300 watt actually, 300 watts. Wow. I don't know where I got the number 40 from. I think it's the model 40 or something. I don't know. But and then get yourself a nice tip and keep your tip clean. I have a little sponge here with a little water in it, and nice and shiny. I also go with the thin solder. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to do after I've tinned, or after I put that flux on all of my contact points, I'm just going to go through and just put a little light coat of solder on all the little contacts. And this is just going to make it easier for the wires to attach. Okay, same thing with my little leads here. So I got a few little leads here. A little solder goes a long way. And you want to be careful not to burn yourself, because you'll be all ow, ah, ow, ah, ah. And you get a blister, and then you can't play cigar box guitar because you got a blister on your finger. Okay, so I got all my leads tinned and all my components tinned. Oh, not all of them. I take it back. This is my main one here. Here's another little trick too. You can just take your wires and just kind of dip them in there. Also, whatever's easier. And then what I can do is you can also dip your soldering iron in there, and then get some solder on your hot tip, and then just put it from the hot tip onto the wire there. There's all sorts of little tips and techniques and stuff like that. There's no one way to do this. There's millions and billions of ways to do this, no doubt. Okay, so now I got all these tipped with solder, so now they're just going to go right on. I'm going to point and talk. All right, so we're going to follow the signal flow. So the piezo underneath here, this little lead right here, okay, this is the one that comes out from the piezo. You can see this little lead right here. So it's going to come up to one side of the input to the switch. The other side of the input of the switch is this guy, and it comes from the single coil. And you'll notice all the grounds are all tied together and soldered to the ground side of the jack. And I also have an extra ground that goes out through here, and I'm going to use that to ground the hinge. So that's that guy. Okay, so going back up to the switch, so we have piezo on one side, single coil on the other side. The output is the center one, and it comes from the output of here, goes to the input of the potentiometer. And then the output of the potentiometer, the center tab here, goes to the jack. And I also have a ground wire that's going to ground this top tab here, which is the ground of the switch. I got to jumper it over to the chassis of this guy, and also to the ground tab terminal of the potentiometer. And then a ground wire that goes all the way through to the jack also. So I have 4 leads grounded. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a jumper that goes to the switch. Now, one thing I always recommend is to test everything out while it's open. Because if there's a problem, you want to find out now, not after you've buttoned everything up and put the strings on and plugged it in, and you're like, oh, what the heck? So we are going to test it out now. And then once I'm 100% confident that everything works, then I will button it up. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how I test. I dial up a nice, obnoxious sound on the amp. And then plug it in. Okay, so I'm going to put it in the piezo switch side, and then I'm going to turn up the volume. All right, now I'm going to scratch the piezo. So I know that it's going to work. Okay, so next I'm going to test the single coil. So it's going to be noisy now because I have my soldering iron here. So check this out. And plus I have fluorescent lights overhead. So it's noisy. Listen to this. Hear that static? That's actually a good thing. Tells us that it's working. Okay, so now check this out. Oh yeah, so if I get my soldering iron near it, watch this. That's how I test it. Oh, and also, check this out. If I put it in the middle position, that static goes away. And also, the static will go away if I shut this guy off too. Ready, watch this. So this guy's like a noisy, I think it has to do with the current and the amp and all that stuff. It's all a bunch of RF. Okay, so now I'm in the middle position. Everything's nice and quiet. Listen to that. Crickets! Okay, so now, okay, the volume's up. I'm in the middle position. My piezo works, and works. And my volume control success. To make the saddle, I just get a little piece of hardwood and I cut a fret slot into the top of it. And actually, before I do that, I actually measure the height. And how I do that is I get my measuring stick and I put one end on the 0 fret or the nut right here. And then I set down my saddle block where it's going to go. And then I come down here. And so the bottom of my ruler here is going to be the string. Again, from the 0 fret to the saddle. And I'm going for about, and this is all up to you. This is called the action. You set it up for exactly the height that you want. I like medium action. That way I can play with fingers and a slide if I want to. And medium action, according to my definition, is about the thickness of a quarter on top of a penny. Does that make sense? Maybe a little bit more. Let's say 2 quarters. 2 quarters. 50 cents. And because nobody likes a square saddle, then I shape it up using that belt sander right there. Of course, you can use a file, sandpaper, anything you like to make it any shape that you like. And then, of course, you can stain it or paint it or leave it alone. I like to match it to the box somehow. Well, yeah, so I'm going to put a fret in there. And then treat the edges of the frets so that when you palm mute, it doesn't hurt. Well, I had a little bit of that stain mixture left over. So I have 50%, or actually it's 70-30 of weathered oak and dark walnut along with that fret that's properly dressed on either side. And that, my friend, is a beautiful saddle. You might have noticed these eyelets here. And these eyelets are about 1/2 inch apart. And they're right strategically in the middle between where the strings are going to go. And that is to provide what I call it's like a string tree or whatever. I just use it to force the strings down so that the strings come up over the 0 fret with a little angle on the back side. Now I just use a nail. This is just a common nail. In fact, I know these are common nails because it says common nail on the box. I prefer the common ones over the uncommon ones. And why? Common sense. But you can use a screw, you can use anything. And so I've learned to put the nail pointing up. If you want to be nice. Or pointing down if you want to be mean. Why is that? Well, because if it's pointing down, it's got that little sharp little point right there. Right here. So when you're coming down here and playing, you could accidentally dink, poke yourself and get some blood going on right there. So you could always just take a file or a sander or a grinder or whatever and grind off that point there. But why do that? I say live dangerously. All right, so we are going to string this thing up because it's all hooked up and buttoned up, and I also have the hinge in place, and it is properly grounded with a strap button. So we're ready. We are ready to string this bad boy up. We're going with the southbound strings because they are made in America. It's the 44, 34, and 26 wound. And of course I'm going to tune it to E, B, E. Cut these pesky things off. 100, 200, 300. Couple of things to point out here. Notice how I do have a nail down here at the nut instead of the 0 fret, the jumbo. The reason being is because I needed a little more clearance, a little higher action, just to get rid of some of the buzzing. I was having a little bit of buzzing down here, and so this just gave me just enough action to eliminate that fret buzz. So I have 2 nails down here, and I also found my last antiqued volume knob there. I found these at a surplus store, and this is the last one. So the first sound here is on the piezo, and tell me if you recognize this song. All right, so the second sound here is going to be the single coil. Last but not least is the both. That's the middle position. And let's see here. Well, just goes to show you that you can accomplish a lot of stuff by dividing up your enormous tasks into smaller, easily achievable goals. Baby steps. Baby steps. This whole process took 4 days, and I did just a couple hours each day, and of course, you know, did the video, did the upload and stuff like that. But that way you're not stressing. That way you feel like you've accomplished your goal, even though it was a smaller goal, more of an achievable goal. So yeah, so baby steps are definitely a strategy, a tool, a method that I use to keep it fun and keeping myself from burning out, right? I did want to let you hear it unplugged. I'll play that other one. I like All right, I am going to throw down some serious jams with this thing here. And that, I'm going to upload that to my Patreon. So if you're a Patreon member, you'll be able to see it there. But if you like these cigar box guitar videos, be sure to subscribe, comment, like, share, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out all my links in the video description below. And I hope you enjoyed this baby step video series. Let me know what you think. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. All right.